Rookie mini camp is underway. We're actually going to meet the defensive coordinator for the first time this week. Plus, an NFL insider has some very specific guesses when it comes to what the 49ers schedule could be next year. We'll get into all that and more on today's Gold Standard. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast on the Fans First Sports Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. He is Levin Black. Levin, what do you think of our fancy new open?
One, where'd it come from? Because I don't believe for a second you made it. Two, is that an open for the network that everybody will use, or Gold Standard show specific?
No, that's going to be for the network as a whole. Trying to step up a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it only took you a little over a year, but you're getting there.
Look, I did not know that there's this app called Fiverr where there's people that do this type of work, and you could just go on and hire someone to do it. Yeah. And it was awesome. It couldn't have been easier. I love it. And yeah, very proud.
There's also Upwork, which I've actually done work through to make a little extra money in the past. Same thing.
Thanks for telling me about it. Awesome. That's really helpful.
I was doing the podcast when I was doing it. I've told you about it. Remember those casino stories I used to have to write that were just like crap stories to get clicks and get Google to populate their website? Yeah, it was through that.
Well, I don't listen to half of what comes out of your mouth, so you can't hold it against me. Please, as we start the show here, you can get the show wherever you get your audio podcasts. Rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. If you want to see us grow, if you've gotten any value from us, please leave a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Pods. It is the best possible thing you can do for us. It's a huge factor when you see the charts of all the podcasts, ratings, and reviews. If you can get a bunch, you will shoot up the charts. So please do it for us. Much like Sawyer Connor did, 5 stars. He left a review, or he or she left a review on Friday. Says, great talks and debates. Keep up the great work. We plan to, Sawyer. So thank you very much. Let's get into what we're going to see this week with rookie minicamp. Nick Sorensen's going to speak. The rookies are going to speak. Levin, is there anything in particular you want to know from any of those people?
No, not really. Well, yes, but that won't come until the season. I want to know if they're any good. Like, that's what I want to know. There's only, I would say, negatives that could come. If they say something really dumb, then it's like, ooh, that doesn't go over well. But as long as they show up, they do their job. Like, the rookie minicamp doesn't really show you anything. What they're going to say in an interview, there's going to be nothing they can say that is going to completely change, pre-draft stuff, because they've just done interviews like this. Unless they say something like really dumb that you're like, whoa, I question that guy's decision making.
I hope we don't get any of that.
Grant, I wouldn't think so.
Yesterday, Grant reminded me that Joe Williams showed up to rookie minicamp in a suit, and he showed up to like the presser in a suit. Like, I didn't.
Yeah, to hide the fat.
I didn't remember any of that. And I agree.
I didn't either.
I doubt anything is going to happen where you're going to be like, he's definitely a player, or he's definitely not a player. I'm totally willing to give these guys some grace, especially like we're talking about first rookie minicamp practice. They've all been preparing for the draft.
Give me some inside info here. How did Pooney get on with Kay Adams? Because that one like threw me out of left field. I was like, wait, okay, hold on here. You got a historically good offensive line draft, and you're doing a show with a 3rd round pick. Like, how did that come to be? Like, you know what I mean? Like, nothing against him, but you would think 1st round, or at least like Jackson Powers Johnson, who was considered the best in his position. Like, it came out of left field to me, and I know she has the power to get the big names, so I wondered what the connection was.
Well, I don't have any inside information just because I happen to know.
Failed me.
It doesn't mean I have inside information.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Well, shout out to Kay Adams and to Dominic Pooney. He was great on the show. If you watch today's 49ers in 5, you'll see some of the clips. I pulled some. He was great, funny. I definitely kind of liked him. I liked his attitude, his confidence. He doesn't lack for confidence at all, which is fantastic. I admit, I agree with you. I was surprised when she tweeted out the day before, like, hey, Dominic Pooney's going to be on. I was like, the lineman? Is there another Dominic Pooney? Like Dominic Pooney, the district attorney? I don't. Okay, but no, he was on and he was great. Shout out to Kay Adams for representing the faithful.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome when I heard it. It just, yeah, I failed to see the logical explanation. There has to be some kind of connection behind the scenes, whether it's a producer knowing his agent extremely well or something.
Dude, the 49ers are a national brand.
That's true.
The faithful are everywhere, man. It's not like
Debo was busy. Debo's, overseas. Different, different timeline for his days right now.
Well, all right. So you mentioned that, so we can go to it. A lot of people are speculating that the 49ers are going to play in London next year because Debo was on the NFL London Twitter and he said, big things coming, big announcement coming, something like that. There's been a lot of speculation about the 49ers schedule. And look, I love the schedule. I like to speculate as much as anybody, but that's me speculating. And like I say, I always promise you 100% authenticity on the show. I can't promise 100% accuracy. Then I saw some news from Peter Schrager, a tweet from Good Morning Football about some predictions with the 49ers schedule. And Peter Schrager has a couple of things in there that I think are interesting. First, he has Niners, Bears opening the season week 1 on Sunday Night Football. I don't like that. I've seen Niners, Bears open a season, Levin. I don't like it.
No, I like it because give me the first game of a rookie quarterback. I'll take that all day. Give me their first game, especially prime time. Like, he's going to have problems. And facing a really good defense in your first game, yeah, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Is it going to be a really good defense? Are the 49ers going to have their stuff figured out in week 1? That's the other part of this, right?
Look, the defensive coordinator, Brandon Staley, will have them ready to go.
I hope so. I mean, you should be able to beat the Bears. I know the Bears, like everyone, loves Caleb Williams and the receivers are so good. It's the Bears. Okay. It's the Bears. You're at home. It would be Sunday Night Football. You should go out and whoop them. You're still trying to be a Super Bowl. You're trying to be the Super Bowl champion. Forget best team in the NFC. So, yeah, I mean, I would expect the 49ers to be favored and win that game. But I don't like it. I don't like playing the Bears week 1. I've seen it.
So they have to play the Bears. When is the most advantageous time to play the Bears? Week 1, because they have a rookie quarterback.
Right.
So, I get the PTSD aspect of it, but when you get rid of all the fluff type stuff and you just look, all right, we have to play this team. When is the best time to play them? It's week 1.
You're right. The earlier, the better. You're right. I mean, you could make the argument there would be more film out, but I agree with you. Like, any player is going to be more comfortable later into their rookie year than earlier in their rookie year. So I totally get the point you're making. I'm just suffering from what happened in week 1 in 2022. So you're not wrong. I'm being emotional. I totally am willing to admit that. Couple other predictions from Schrager. He has Niners at Rams on Thanksgiving in the nightcap. And then he has Niners at Packers on Christmas Day. And it's like, dude, we just played on all the holidays. Can we not?
Yeah. Can I have at least one holiday? Like, if this ends up being truth and he had inside info, I will be mad. Like, F that. And I would imagine the players on the team will say the same thing. Like, I think I doubt that this will actually end up being both. I think the Niners are probably he knows that they're strong candidates for both of those holidays, but there's some kind of agreement with probably Jed York. No, you're not playing my team on both major holidays again. You pick one.
I don't know. See, so here's the thing, right?
That Green Bay game will be big time.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many games on the schedule. The Niners schedule is absurd for 2024. There are every game almost could be a freaking primetime game. It's
going to be 6 probably primetime games.
Oh, it's going to be the max for sure. 100%. I mean, just take a quick look. They play Aaron Rodgers. They play the Lions again. They play the Chiefs again. They play the Cowboys again. They play the Packers again. They play the Dolphins. They play the Bills. Take your pick. All those games could be primetime games.
Just don't make them Thursday primetime games. I absolutely least favorite game possible is any Thursday game.
So you've got like the normal human nice thing to do, which is, hey, we just put these guys on all the holidays. Can we really do this to them again? But then you've also got the NFL thing to do, which is who cares? We don't care about them. They're all replaceable robots to us. We want to put the teams in there that are going to generate the highest ratings. I mean, that Packers Niners game is going to be a massive rating. Niners Chiefs is going to be a massive rating. Like,
Yeah.
the NFL, I understand from their perspective why they would be like, sorry, but we're doing it again.
I feel like the Packers Niners game is more likely because with the Packers you get a tie into like a lot of times on like especially the Thanksgiving game, they want those NFC North teams because those are the traditional teams. You know, obviously the Bears, the Lions are the big time traditionals, but you get to tie into Green Bay and it's in Green Bay. So that's the one that I think is more likely that hey, let's get that in front of all the holiday people because it's two marquee teams. It's two teams in the NFC that are going to be battling it out probably for the next foreseeable future with the young quarterbacks. The two quarterbacks, if you just watched the live show that happened on the channel, are very much debated on which one is better. Like Green Bay fans think Love is better. I mean, we dealt with that at the playoffs. When we got to the playoffs, who was the beloved quarterback when they got to the playoffs in the NFC? It was Love because he had such a strong finish to the regular season. So that's like a rivalry I feel like they want to play up and really get going again. So why not put it on a holiday where you get massive ratings?
By the way, if you haven't seen the Michelle live stream that she did with Zach Jacobson of Packers Report, go watch it. I mean, you cannot get a more definitive breakdown of why Brock Purdy is a better player right now than Jordan Love. It was a whooping. It was like Niners Steelers week 1 last year. It was like Eminem against Papa Doc at the end of 8 Mile. It was that poor guy walked into a buzzsaw, had no idea what he was in for. Do not battle Michelle. She comes and she comes strong.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it, but not right now because
This is our time.
see, I reversed it. God, I'm so talented. What would you do without me?
Um, the other part of the Peter Schrager mock stuff that's interesting is like it's Peter Schrager saying it. You know, he's an NFL insider. He works for
Yeah.
NFL Network. The schedule is done. It's coming out on Wednesday. They're not still figuring it out. The schedule is done now. So I feel like his word carries a lot of weight. Maybe it's not 100% accurate, but I would not be stunned to see at least one of those 3 predictions come true from Schrager.
I would say the schedule is not 100% done. I would guess what's happening right now is they know what weeks all the games are happening, but there's arguing going on about prime time. Like I mentioned, like there are conversations that happen between owners and stuff of no, we don't want to play on that holiday, or no, we're not doing, you know, a Monday late night and then flying cross country for a Sunday noon game. You know what I mean? Those are battles that happen kind of behind the scenes to a degree. I would guess that's what's happening right now is that there's like disagreement and there's some owners putting up a big fight over, you know, it doesn't have to be the Niners. It could be anybody. It could be, you know, some team that traditionally gets the holiday game, not getting it. And they're going, no, 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 no. You know, like what if the Cowboys didn't play on Christmas or Thanksgiving? Like they're almost always on the holidays. So Jerry Jones would probably put up a fight over that, you know, but that's what I would guess. That's why the schedule got assumingly delayed because everybody thought it was coming out this week.
I think it's done. I think it's done. I think they know. And I don't want the 49ers to play on holiday for selfish perspective. Like I get it. Like if you like it, I totally understand why. But from my perspective, like I literally rearranged like it was a whole thing. Anyway, we'll see when the schedule comes.
I was traveling and I had to do the after the worst game of the regular season, a live show in a hotel room that I purposely got a suite. It was nothing fancy, but a bedroom so that my daughter could theoretically be like asleep with my wife in the bedroom and we close the door and I can record. And instead it was my wife like battling a 3-year-old because she was not accepting the fact that she could not be in the same room as me. It was an awesome recording experience.
Don't worry, she'll learn that eventually it's better to be in a room separate from you. as I have learned, lo these many years. I just saw this tweet from Josh
You
Dubois.
miss me. You can don't blow that over. You miss me, and you know it.
Well, we've only ever been in the same room for 1 week ever.
If I was around more often, you would spend a lot less money on Subway.
Maybe. Subway's delicious, man. You know, the Subway in Hamden where I live went out of business. So now I'm like super mad because there's
Is
no
it because you were out of town for 2 weeks, so they went out of business?
could be. It could be. I saw this tweet from Josh Dubois just now, and I bring it up because it's something that I've talked about with Grant, and other people have mentioned it when talking about Kyle Shanahan. And here's the tweet. Josh writes, Shanahan is headed into his 8th season as Niners coach, the only coaches hired since the start of the Super Bowl era who won their first Super Bowl with a franchise in year 8 or later were Bill Cowher, who won it in his 14th year with the Steelers, and John Madden, who won it in his 8th season with the Raiders. I don't care about this at all. This holds no weight with me because what happened in the past doesn't affect what happens with Kyle Shanahan in the future. So I know that historically speaking, it rarely happens. If you haven't won one by now, you usually don't win one. But that doesn't scare me at all. Does it scare you?
It doesn't change. It does in one way and doesn't in another. You're right that it doesn't that doesn't mean the Niners can't win the Super Bowl this season. It has no predictive value in terms of that. But what this is kind of shining a light on is the clock is ticking. You only have so long. It doesn't matter how many times you get close. If you don't get one, eventually your voice will go deaf in that locker room. And we just talked about it on a recent show, if I remember correctly. Like that happened to Andy Reid. Like his time was done in Philly. Like you can't blame Philly for moving on. It had run its course. There was no oh, we can keep Andy Reid and it'll work out. It had taken too long. They hadn't gotten over the humps. They needed a change of scenery. He needed to go elsewhere. And guess what? He left. They win a Super Bowl, meaning the Eagles. And he's now won 3 Super Bowls. So it worked out for all parties. But there is a certain, I would say, shelf life to being able to get over the hump. And that's what that speaks to. But in terms of the vacuum of just looking at, can they win the Super Bowl this next season? It means absolutely nothing.
I agree that you don't have forever as a head coach, but Andy Reid's last 2 years in Philadelphia, he went 8-8 and 4-12.
Yeah.
We are not at that point with Kyle Shanahan. Last year, they were the number 1 seed in the NFC. They won 12 games. They would have won more if they didn't give away the last game of the year. They would have beat the Rams again. They dominated. They had the best offense in the league. Their defense was 3rd in points allowed. We are not at the point where Kyle Shanahan's voice is growing stale. Now, maybe last year was the last year that it won't. We don't know. But I do think that's not quite the same as Andy Reid in Philadelphia, who, by the way, was in Philly for 14 years. So he was in Philly for longer than Kyle Shanahan has been in San Francisco.
Do you know what it probably hinges on, in all honesty?
Brock,
yeah. If Brock is a true franchise quarterback, those two will probably stick around through the remainder of Brock's career. If he's not the real deal, then you run into what happened to Andy Reid. What happened? He lost his franchise quarterback. Donovan McNabb aged out of being good, and he became quite terrible very quickly, and he was unable to find somebody good enough. He found stopgaps. Michael Vick had one special season in Philly, but then reverted back the next year because teams figured out what he was doing with Michael Vick, and Michael Vick still couldn't throw a ball accurately to save his life. So if you don't have the quarterback, you have a certain grace period for finding that quarterback. Shanahan has used that up. So if he loses the quarterback and starts having these years of the quarterback's holding us back, I don't think anybody allows that to be an excuse for him anymore.
And I think, though, that you're right, Brock extends the window because part of the people whose I don't know how I want to say this. The people to whom your voice grows stale, one of those is the quarterback. Well, that's not the case with Brock Purdy because he's only had 1 year as a starter. So he's not in year 8 of Kyle Shanahan's voice in the locker room. He's in year 3. So that matters a huge, huge amount for the 49ers. I think it's the biggest reason they have the potential to kind of reboot, let's say, and come up with a new core of players for the next 3 to 5 years is because one of those guys in the new core is the quarterback, Brock Purdy.
Did you see the tweet for most playoff wins since 2000? I saw it going kind of viral today.
I did not. Was that? Oh, yes. The team wins, you're saying.
Team wins, yeah.
I did see the tweet. I'll try and grab it and see if I can pull it up.
So in it, I think there's 7 teams on it, I want to say, but it's the teams with 6+ wins. The Niners have 13 playoff wins. All the other teams, and like I said, it goes all the way down to 6 wins, have at least one Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
The Niners are third in terms of most wins, and one of only, I think, 3 teams with double-digit playoff wins since 2000, and they have 0 trophies to show for it.
I did see that. I can't find it now, unfortunately. Terrible job in a big spot by me. I did see it, and that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, wow, Niners have the 3rd most playoff wins since 2010. That's really great. And then I'm looking and I see Lombardi Trophy, and I'm like, oh, don't tell me.
And Shanahan has what, like half? Or does he have them in more than half? He has more than half. Doesn't he have 7 playoff wins?
I think he has more playoff wins than Harbaugh now, yeah.
So he has 7 playoff wins with the Niners, which would rank for the entire NFL in the last 23 seasons 5th most. And Shanahan has 7. He has the 5th most wins of any franchise, and you go back 24 years, but he's done it in 7 years, and the Niners don't have a Super Bowl.
You know what's funny? If you ask anybody, was Jim Harbaugh a good coach with the 49ers? What's everybody going to say? Yup. Awesome. Jim Harbaugh was great. 3 straight NFC championship games, made a Super Bowl. You ask people if Kyle Shanahan's a good head coach with the 49ers, they're like, he's a choker. It's like, wait a minute. He's got a better resume than Jim Harbaugh.
You're not wrong about that. The difference is that in terms of Niner fans, I think everybody saw the Niner teams in the couple of years leading up to Jim Harbaugh, and at least I felt this way. Like, I used to say, like, this team can win games. They just need somebody that can do enough offensively because the defense is crazy good. And Jim Harbaugh finally did that. Multiple other coaches came in, didn't do it. He did that. Whereas Shanahan's had to build it from the ground up. Now, obviously, you can make a very logical argument that I would probably agree with, that what Shanahan has done is much harder. He didn't just come into a winning team. He built the winning team. But I get like why that would kind of change perception of, Shanahan had multiple years where he struggled in the beginning. So people had some doubts creep in. So that just kind of, it created a different mindset from the beginning than, hey, here's this team that nobody's been able to win with for over a decade. And then suddenly you're just like door stomping teams.
I agree. I think Kyle has the better argument. He's been the better coach with the 49ers. He took over a much worse team. It was a joke, the 49ers roster, when Kyle Shanahan got here. And he has gotten them to higher highs than Jim Harbaugh ever took the 49ers. That's just a fact. The Kyle Shanahan 49ers are better than the Jim Harbaugh 49ers. And people bag on Kyle Shanahan like he's a terrible coach, and it makes no sense. It's completely illogical. He gets dinged for making more Super Bowls than Jim Harbaugh did. Jim Harbaugh's Super Bowl team, by the way, got to the 4-yard line at the end of his Super Bowl and couldn't punch it in, too. So, like, damn, man.
There's a reason why I will never like Greg Roman. I don't care what he does in the rest of his life. You get to a 4-yard line, you have Frank Gore, and you go, fade, 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 fade. Like, how lazy and terrible of an offensive coordinator are you?
It was the worst sequence of play calls in the entire season that year. And it just came at the
history of the NFL. The Super Bowl is on the line, and you just call corner fade over and over again.
Just to go half field reads and just immediately cut off half the field in that spot again. And like multiple times, it's like, what are we doing? Like, you got to be kidding me. It was ugly.
You can tell, like, he must have predetermined that, hey, if it comes down to this, I'm just doing corner fade 4 times because the probability is they catch one of the 4. So we're good. And he just stubbornly stuck to it over and over. I mean, Shows what time period we are in the year that we're rehashing wounds of a
Yeah.
decade plus ago. But Greg Roman.
Even though, whatever. It's a thing. By the way, speaking of the Ravens,
We're men. We are always thinking of the Romans, right?
um, speaking of the Ravens, who of course beat the 49ers in that Super Bowl, did you see who gave the Niners credit for taking Ricky Pearsall in round 1 of the NFL draft? That
No.
that would be current Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta, who
Huh.
said, I thought Pearsall was a guy that we might get that was a sleeper for us at some point. He really wasn't a hot commodity name. He's a super impressive player on tape. He gave the Niners credit. He thought Pearsall was a great pick, and he was hoping to steal him in the later rounds.
It's just another example of what I said last week. Like, it seems like Pearsall is this guy that, like, everybody that watched the film goes, well, I don't have any negatives. He's a great prospect. But he's going to be drafted somewhere between 40 and 60. You know what I mean? It was just like one of these prospects that had this pre-draft grade that stubbornly stuck to him, even though every single person you hear, whether analyst or other GMs or the 49ers or who have you, say, well, on tape, he does all these things. Like, you can even go to his pre-draft, analysis from the sites, and it's like a whole bunch of lists of things that if you go compare it to, the top wide receivers taken early in the first round, you're like, okay, this is a comparable description to the guys that were taken in the top 10. It's just one of those weird things, and it's clear to me that the Niners said we're not risking losing this guy just because maybe he's possibly going to be there sometime in the second round that we could trade up and get him.
That's why I'm so eager to see Pearsall on the field. Like, I want to see, let's hear some reports. How's he doing? How's he looking? I asked Grant this question, and I'll ask it to you. Is it possible for both Ricky Pearsall and Renardo Green to have a good rookie minicamp?
Is it good for both of them to be reported as having a good rookie minicamp? Yes, because all rookies will be reported as having a good rookie minicamp.
Well,
There's nothing to go off of with a rookie minicamp. Hey, are you athletic? Hey, then you had a good rookie minicamp, because that's about all you can show is your athleticism.
I just hope that it's not Pearsall on Green all the time, because that means one of them is going to have a bad camp.
No, but you got a point on that one. But I just want to see this offense open the F up. I still don't. I go back and forth. Like, part of it is like, you look at it logically. Hey, they have so many weapons now. You should open up this offense and be a passing offense. But then, like, when you say that, and then you look, okay, has Shanahan ever opened up his offense? Oh, he literally had prime Julio Jones in a historically good offense, and he still was run heavy.
But the offense was good. Like, that's the thing. Like, we say we want them to open it up. They had the best offense in the league last year. They scored like the third most points per game. They were first in like every offensive efficiency metric.
Yeah, they had the most points per drive. It's just because they ran so much, they had less drives.
I saw something about Ricky Pearsall. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was basically like he heard from NFL GMs the year before he came out that they weren't too high on him. His play strength was not good. They were very dissatisfied about it. And so he got all bent out of shape about that. And then this year at the combine, he put up 17 reps of 225, which was sixth best of any wide receiver at the combine. So, like, I kind of like hearing stories like that. Like, clearly it bugged him, and he didn't just like complain about it. He hit the gym and put up a good number in the bench. Like, he heard about a criticism and he worked to fix it.
Yeah, so that's the key point there is, I don't care what wide receiver prospect you take in the history of the NFL, they were not capable or good enough to say, well, this is what I am, and I'm not working on anything else because I'm going to dominate with what I am already. No, every single one of them that ended up being great had to adjust to what NFL offenses or defenses came and adjusted to them and said, all right, I'm going to press you. That didn't work. All right, I'm going to give you a ton of cushion. If that didn't work, then I'm going to make you cut to the left all the time because I'm going to shade you on the right, or vice versa. And they'll constantly make adjustments to try to force you into different things to see if, all right, we found his weakness. If we just force him to do this over and over, we can limit his impact. And it's up to that player to then adjust to that and say, well, I'm going to turn that weakness into at the very worst, something that's not a liability for me. And wide receiver, I think, is one of the positions. There's a handful of them that's the most relevant for. Obviously, quarterback's the big one, but there are wide receivers that come in and they're phenomenal at this one particular route. And defenses learn that and they say, all right, we're taking away this one route, and they are never relevant again.
And I think the Niners kind of like the idea. I mean, their offense is kind of full of those types of people. Christian McCaffrey is one of those types of people, like a maniacal worker.
Yeah.
Brandon Aiyuk took criticism early in his career and worked to correct it. George Kittle is a maniacal worker. Like Brock Purdy coming out in the draft. What did he hear? His arm strength is not good. He worked hard to improve it. He improved it some, but he improved it. Like, I think the Niners are like, that's something that they actually look for when they consider acquiring people and bringing them onto the team. And it's awesome. Like, it makes these guys so much more likable and easier to root for.
Look, can you take the valid things that you see of Kyle Shanahan's wide receiver tape and use that to become better wide receiver?
I still can't believe he shows his wide receiver. If I ever got the chance to interview Kyle, I would 1000% ask that question. Kyle Shanahan, true or false? You show your own wide receiver tape to people during the year.
No, just flip it on him. Say true or false. Is it relevant to show 20-plus-year-old tape of a mediocre college wide receiver's practice and game habits? Or is that something you can't really gain anything from?
Or is that something you only do for yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, God. All right. Last thing to do before we wrap up. We're obviously all sitting, waiting for Brandon Aiyuk to sign his extension with the 49ers now that he hasn't been traded. What will that contract actually look like? Levin wants to make a bet with me. I could tell.
I'm bored.
You think this is something you're really good at, and you think you're going to be able to pull one over on me and have me have to do some.
It does have to do with numbers, so I'm probably better at it than you.
What's that supposed to mean?
I think you know.
No. I want you to say it.
You suck at numbers.
I don't suck at numbers. What are you talking about? I'm fine with numbers. We have a perfectly cordial relationship.
You and numbers have a relationship, huh?
Yes, it's fine. We both understand.
I know you love the number 14.
We have the minimum amount of interaction possible, and we both get along just fine. So, Brandon Aiyuk's contract, what is it going to look like? You want to have some sort of bet. And to be clear, when we talk about this bet, we're going off of the initial reported numbers, puffed up as they might be, exaggerated as they might be. We're talking initial tweet straight from the agent to Adam Schefter to all of us.
You mean Rappaport. Niner stuff goes through Rappaport.
True. That's true. Rappaport is usually the one that breaks it. So when Brandon Aiyuk signs his contract with the 49ers, breaking news, Brandon Aiyuk signs with the 49ers. What does it look like?
I say 4 years. I wouldn't be shocked by 5. I would be shocked if it's 3. I think the Niners could say, all right, we'll bump up our yearly number, but we want to lock you up 5 years, get his entire prime, and that 5th year would be at a discounted value to what the market would be. But the Niners tend to prefer 4 years. So I'd say 4 years, 106. I bumped up a little bit from the prediction I put out about a month ago on Twitter, just because the market has bumped up with a couple signings. That would be $26.5 million per. And I think we were going to go with guaranteed money as a third thing in case we need a tiebreaker. I say 56 million guaranteed.
And this is just, again, when it comes out the tweet, because I forget who was it that just signed a deal. Why was it Amon-Ra St. Brown? I think his number got way puffed up, and then when Florio tweeted out the actual details of the contract, you could see that was the back end of it was puffed up so that it would boost up the average per year, but it really wasn't that. We're talking about the initial fake phony numbers because it's just easier and more fun that way.
Well, yeah, and the guaranteed number is the key one to keep in mind there, because a lot of times they go, oh, it's this guaranteed, and then a couple of weeks later it's, well, the fully guaranteed at signing, and it's like some fraction of the first number.
Right. It's they include the guaranteed for injury in the initial guaranteed tweet to make it look bigger. Okay. I agree with you. I think there's no chance it's a 3-year deal. That stuck out like a sore thumb to me when Debo's deal was 3 years. I was like, oh, they know. They know he ain't aging well, and they know that this is a short-term thing. That's not normal for NFL contract extensions. It's not. So I agree. It's at least going to be 4 years. I'll say 5 years. 4 years. See, Aiyuk is 26 now, so I get what you're saying with the 4 years. Like that does make sense. I'm going to go 5 just to make it a little different. So I'll say 5 years. I don't totally disagree with your annual average per year. You said 26.5 million. I'll say 27. So
you're bumping up. So yeah.
In 27 is what? What's that? 108? 108 million.
So
See? I know, man.
Well, if it's 5 years, what do you get to?
Well, yeah, then
135. Yeah, you want 135. 5 years, 135.
That seems like a lot. That seems high, doesn't it?
135, I'm almost certain, is the record for most money in a single wide receiver contract.
How much of that is puffed up?
Right. That if they get 5 years, I would guess that the final year is like, oh, your final year has 34 million.
Right. And it's something that's never going to actually hit the books or be a real thing. But for the purposes of these numbers, you know what? Screw it. 5 years, 135, 62 million fully, 62 million guaranteed. How about that? Now, what are the stakes for this here wager? That is the case. And let me just tell you.
I was just bored and threw it out there like, hey, we got very little to talk about this week. Why don't we do a bet?
I'm not doing the mayonnaise. I have been scarred forever. That mayonnaise was horrible. Horrible. If you want to do something like spicy, whatever, I'm down.
I was just thinking that those chips. That's what popped in my head before you said spicy. Like, I'm not a huge I don't mind spice. I do not like crazy spicy. Like I like jalapenos on a lot of things. I put jalapenos in a lot of things. I use hot sauce in a lot of things. But I don't do like, ooh, here's a ghost pepper sauce that'll make it to where you can't even taste your food. No. So those chips that are crazy, you know, like the Shaq famously has that meme of when it hit him and he made the face. Like, that wouldn't be a bad one. You want to do a chip?
Au contraire, mon frere. Have I not told you this story? When I was working on Pro Football Talk Live, of course, it always goes back to the Chiefs. We had Travis Kelce on the show. Travis Kelce,
Mr. Swift himself,
yes, was pitching the Packy potato chip that comes. It's a Reaper pepper, and it comes in a casket-shaped box, which, by the way, should have been the first clue. Well, Florio sends me a text after the interview. He's like, hey, I want to taste that chip. So I hit up Kelsey's guy and was like, would you mind sending some chips? So the guy sent like a bazillion of them. So I gave some to Mike, and he was like, I have more than I could ever want. Give the rest to the staff. So we handed them out. And like,
you got sued.
No, we tasted them. I took one corner of that chip and ate it, and it destroyed me for the entire day. I have never experienced.
You're not getting off light like that.
No,
you're not taking a little nibble. If we're doing a bet, like you got to do the. Like I won't say like the entire chip, because I think it's unlikely. Neither one of us are spicy guys. I think it's unlikely either one of us would be able to go in for a second bite to finish the chip, like a full bite.
Dude, I will have to negotiate that, because I don't know if I could literally stand it. It was like nothing I've ever experienced before. My mouth just exploded. It was like lava in your mouth. And normally when you eat something hot, like it rises up, it peaks, and then it goes back down.
No, not the crazy stuff. No.
This never goes down. I ran to the cafeteria. I grabbed a big thing of milk. I chugged a thing of milk, because milk is supposed to help with that. Did not help at all. I had an hour-long drive home from NBC. I thought I was going to have to pull over on the side of the road and puke or poop, one or maybe both. That's how bad it was. I couldn't eat anything for the rest of the day. I had to lay down on the couch. I was in full flop sweat. I'm telling you, it destroys you. I will do it. But holy God, I better win.
So, for a little background, I'm not new or inexperienced when it comes to spicy bets like this. I had a jerk of a father who had an obsession when I was a child with spicy stuff. He had a large garden when I was age, let's see, 7 to age 12. Very like large garden that he took up half our backyard with. At this time, the habanero was the hottest pepper in the world. They hadn't gotten to like the engineering of these crazy peppers yet. He grew them and he would put them on all sorts of stuff. But one of the things he would do is if you could eat one and have nothing pass your lips for 5 minutes, you'd get, it was like $5, which when you're 10 years old is a lot of money. But when I was only 7, my dad was a high school soccer coach. He came home from getting dinner with one of his former players, and they had some wings left. And I didn't know what the sauces were or anything. I'm 7 years old. They offered me $5 to eat one of the wings. It turned out to be habanero sauce. I do remember it being so spicy. They said, go get an ice cube. And the ice cube got fused to my lips because if you do ice with a hot spice like that, the heat difference reacts and it like fuses to your lips, similar to like when you lick a pole that's frozen type thing. And I remember my mom being so angry with him because she had to like rip this off my lips. I think she ended up pouring like hot water to get it to break free, but like I'm dying from spice and I have an ice cube stuck to my mouth. But my dad had like a open offer to any of like my cousins, any of his players, that if you could eat one of the habaneros and not drink anything for 5 minutes, he would give you $5. I think his soccer players, because my cousin did it, and my cousin ended up rolling around in his own puke when he was a player for my dad. But I think the offer was if you could eat it and not have anything pass your lips for 5 minutes, you got the rest of the practice off or something like that. But yeah, he always had, he carried a bag with him of habaneros for these years. So I have many experiences. He got my grandson to do a sliver of habaneros and stuff. Yeah, my grandson. Well, I mean, he was probably 13, 14 at the time.
No, not your grandson.
His grandson.
There you go.
My nephew. Yeah, sorry.
It's like, if you were a grandpa, I was going to have some fun with that. Let me tell you. You know what you are? You're a story topper. That's what you are. Story topper. I had a Travis Kelce story directly relating to what we were talking about.
Are you saying that a story about my father trumps Travis Kelce and Florio?
Yes.
And you saying I thought I had to poop?
Something was coming out of me.
I don't think I topped you. I think I shared a personal experience, which is what friends do.
Here's what we'll do. Assuming he doesn't sign, we will next week we'll decide what the actual bet is going to be. If you want to
wait, hold on. If he doesn't sign an extension at all, Michelle has to eat the chip.
Done. That we agree. Send us your ideas for what we should do, what the wager should be. You can leave it in your review on Apple Pods if you would be so kind. Leave us a 5-star review. Tell us what the stakes should be. That would be absolutely phenomenal for us. You can leave it in the comments on YouTube. But again, if you can leave a rating and review on Apple Pods, it really, really helps us. Open to suggestions.
You want to go viral, Rob? Lose the bet, eat the chip, and poop yourself on camera. You'll never live it down.
It was, at least I'd be in my house at that point. Like, I was literally like, what if this happens? What if I poop or throw up 10 minutes into my car ride, which is an hour long, and I just have to sit with it for the next hour? I was panicked. It was a traumatic experience. They give you the chip. It comes with gloves. Yeah. That's how hot this thing is. It's like a biohazard. But again, I'd be willing to do it. It'd be a business expense. So would my trip to the emergency room. But let us know in the comments what you want to see, and we will take it all into account. Levin Black. Good show. 44 minutes, and there wasn't much to talk about. That's a credit to us.
What did I say earlier in the show? God, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. You just ruined it. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.